When we think of spiritual freedom, we usually picture escaping physical reality. We imagine renouncing society for a quiet mountain cave, or waiting for salvation in a heavenly afterlife. But a core text of Indian philosophy proposes that ultimate liberation is achieved right in the middle of a noisy, bustling market. To understand how, we have to look at the root problem. The text identifies this as avidya, or ignorance. It is the cognitive mechanism that tricks human beings into believing the physical world is entirely real, locking us into a continuous loop of suffering. This trap is held together by vasanas, deep-seated mental conditioning and latent impressions. These accumulated layers of memory and desire dictate exactly how we perceive and react to our environment. The Mokṣopāya, a massive and radical philosophical text, argues that true freedom has nothing to do with running away, dying, or entering a catatonic trance. The ultimate goal is a state called Jīvanmukti, attaining absolute liberation while remaining fully alive, breathing, and actively participating in society. This creates a striking paradox. A Jīvanmukta might look like an ordinary person, an emperor, or even a warrior on a battlefield, but internally they experience the entire material world as complete emptiness. Freedom here is a specific psychological state where the mind remains indifferent to its surroundings even while the body continues to act within them. Inside the mind of a living sage, the usual human reactions vanish. They execute their daily duties, but remain entirely untouched by pleasure, pain, ego, or fear. The text describes this state as a waking sleep. The sage is completely awake to ultimate reality, yet fast asleep to the anxieties and desires that drive everyone else. Observational. Looking at this passage from the text, we see it described as the silence of deep sleep. The sage continues to act, but possesses zero sense of personal agency. There is no I doing the work, just a state of utter emptiness. How can a human brain process the chaos of a society, manage complex tasks, and yet remain as detached and silent as open space? To understand how a living sage operates, we have to examine how they perceive the very fabric of reality itself. To see this as the sage does, we have to look past our own sensory data and investigate how the Mokṣopāya actually defines existence. The Mokṣopāya moves beyond common theories of illusion and argues that the physical world is a logical impossibility. This diagram illustrates the distinction. On the left, we see the orthodox Advaita Vedanta model. It treats reality like mistaking a rope for a snake in the dark. The snake is an illusion, but there is still a real physical rope underneath it. If we update that left side to show Kashmir Shaivism, the model changes to a real ultimate dissimity, projecting a real universe out of its own freedom. The source and the projection are both solid. Now look at the right side. This is the Mokṣopāya's doctrine of atyanta-bhava, or absolute non-existence. Here, the perceived world has no underlying rope and no solid projection. It has zero physical baseline. It dissolves entirely into pure void. The text treats the material universe as a logical contradiction. It compares it to the son of a barren woman, something that cannot exist by definition. This view closely mirrors the Buddhist Yogacara school, where everything perceived is merely mind. However, the Mokṣopāya anchors this within a Hindu framework, pointing to an ultimate self-luminous pure consciousness as the only reality. If the physical world is an absolute non-entity, then human suffering cannot be caused by external events. It is entirely self-generated by the active imagination of the mind. Realizing this truth does not happen by accident. The text explicitly rejects the concept of fate, demanding immense, deliberate personal effort and the application of reason. A seeker must bypass what the text calls the four gatekeepers of liberation: tranquility, rigorous self-inquiry, deep contentment, and the company of the wise. This page outlines the stages of progress. Notice the transition from the initial desire to be liberated directly into the investigation of reality. Through sustained self-inquiry, the seeker systematically exhausts all mental impressions, frying the seeds of desire so they never grow again. Here, the text details the victory over this mental conditioning. Once those impressions are exhausted, the mind becomes entirely transparent. the lens of ignorance is removed, and the illusion of the world appearance ceases. The path to liberation is a methodical, deliberate dismantlement of your own mind, leaving behind nothing but pure, unconditioned consciousness. With their mind completely dissolved, the Jīvanmukta exists in a continuous, unbreakable state of samadhi, even while walking, talking, and interacting with a world they know isn't there. Eventually, the physical body of the sage naturally dies. This marks the transition to Videhamukti, or final, disembodied liberation. Upon death, the sage seamlessly merges with the infinite. Like a localized breeze returning to the vast air, they are forever free from rebirth. This reveals the ultimate conclusion of the Mokṣopāya. Bondage and liberation were never real external events. They were only shifting states of internal understanding. Sage Vāsiṣṭha recognized that while these logic-based arguments provide a map, the actual destination is a state of mind reached through narrative and lived experience. To truly comprehend this philosophy, we must move beyond the analytical framework and enter the world of the text's teaching stories. The philosophical foundation is set. It is time to step into the labyrinth, beginning with a grieving queen and the discovery of infinite universes hidden within a single room.